Okay, ji. Normal distribution, lecture number 4. Now, what does lecture number 4 has in it? You need to understand that in normal distribution, what we normally have is the data that is represented by X, we convert it to Z, we take out phi of Z. Or when it says probability that X is greater than A, so that means probability that Z is greater than A. So this will be 1 minus probability Z is less than A. So what we do is we do phi of A. So the difference is that this is your normal method. That means number 1, you have values of X. Number 2, you convert them to Z. Number 3, then you look at to Z that is it positive Z, negative Z, it is greater than Z or less than Z. So it depends upon question. But what main thing is objective is you find the phi of Z from the Z table so that you can give the probability. So generally this is the process, right? But now the process is reversed. Now the process will be the probability might be given to you. The probability might be given to you. There might be possibility that question might ask you the value of X. Question can ask you value of mean, or question can ask you value of standard deviation. So this is a reversal working when we do the normal distribution. Now it really needs the concept behind everything. And the concept follows from lecture 1, 2, and 3. So let's just do the reversal with the help of question. Let's say that we know that the length of the fish of a certain time is normally distribution, have a normal distribution with mean 38. Now the mean is already given to you. It is found that 5% of the fish are longer than 50 centimeters. Now, few things that are there that needs to be understood. Number 1 is 50 centimeter is the value of X. 50 centimeter is the value of what? X. 38 is your mean. Now, 50 is what? More than mean. So that means your X, when you will be marking it down in the normal, when you will be writing it down in the normal, that means this X will be noted as what? 50 here. And this will be more than the mean. So if it is more than the mean, that means every time it will be on the right hand side. If it would have been less than the mean, it would have been on the left hand side. But if the X value is more than the mean, we'll write it down on the right hand side. If X value is less than the mean, we would have obviously marked it on the left hand side. But here in the question, what does it say? In the question, it says generally that it is found 5% of the fish are longer than. So that means in this question, the question says X is greater than 50, and the probability of this is 5%, which is what? 0.05. 5% means 5 divided by what? 100. So 5 divided by 100 means 0.05. So if it is greater than this, so the probability of this is 0.05. The question says find the standard deviation. Find the standard deviation. So how do we find the standard deviation, or where do we get the standard deviation? We normally have the standard deviation where we need to find out value of Z. When we do X minus mean upon standard deviation, where we do X minus mean upon standard deviation. Now, in this regard, This mean is given, that is 38. Your x is given, that is 50. But standard deviation is missing. But we can find out the value of z. How can we find out value of z? Because your probability is given. Because the probability is given. So for part 1, we already know that your 50 is showing what? Greater than. This means P is x greater than 50 is 0.05. But if you just note this, your Z table does not give me the value of the right hand side. Your Z table does not give me the value of the right hand side. So obviously this is useless. This side is useless because particularly you need to understand this right hand side probability is 0.05. But Z table does not show me the probability of the right hand side. So this probability is useless. But what we can know is the entire probability of the Gaussian bell curve is equal to what? 1. The entire probability of the Gaussian bell curve is equal to what? 1. So now since we know it is equal to 1, to find the probability of the left hand side of the entire Gaussian bell curve, what we can do is we can say 1 minus 0.05, which will be equal to 0.95. This will be 0.95. That means the probability of the left hand side, entire left hand side, is 0.95, where the probability was 0.05 for the right hand side. Now, we already know that probability x greater than 50 is 0.05, but this is useless. So we know one more thing, probability that x less than 50 will be 0.95. Less than 50 will be 0.95. So this x is basically what? We need to find out value of z first. Because your probability comes through the value of z. So we can directly write this thing down as 50. Z is less than 50, which is 0.95. Because obviously probability comes through the z table. So now what we can do is to find out the value of z. To find out the value of z. This is A basically. Because now we know that 50 will be converted to what? Your z value. 50 will be converted to your z value. So z less than A is equal to 0.95, which means z will be, or your A will be phi inverse of 0.95. It would be what? Phi inverse of 0.95. What does phi inverse mean? Phi inverse means you will be using the reverse technique to find out value of z. Your reverse technique will include few things. Either your answer will be given in the bottom values, which is this 0.95 is equal to what? 1.645. Z value is what? 1.645. So you can directly write down that find that Z is equal to 1.645. Or you can directly find out through the table. To find out Z value of 0.9500, what we can have is we need to understand the value less than 0.9500. So the value less than 9500, let's just look at this. Let's search. 9582, we do not need this. 9573, we do not need this. 64, we don't. 55, we don't. 545, 535, 525, 515. Even we do not need 0.9505 because this is more than 0.5. But yes, the table that gives me 0.9495. What does it show? This shows 1.6 on the left. This shows 1.6 on the left. This shows 4 at the top. So what do we have? 1.64. But 9495. How much should be added that we can get what? 9500. We need 5. So we need to search the value of 5 on the right hand side. Here it is. So 9495 plus 5 will give me what? 9500. So this is your value. The value that we need is this. So the end result is 1.645. So what we can have is Z is equal to 1.645. But what we actually needed was Z is equal to X minus mean upon standard deviation. So this is equal to 1.645 is equal to 50 minus your mean was 38. Your mean is 38 divided by standard deviation. So that means for standard deviation, 50 minus 38, let's write it down as 12. 12 upon 1.645. So the standard deviation is 7.2948. So we can write this thing as 7.30. This can be written as 7.30. So the value of the standard deviation is 7.30. So this was 3-mark question just to get the reversal of what? Standard deviation. Okay, up till now it was lecture number 4. But since we started off with the question, we completed part 1 for the standard deviation as 7.3. Now let's just work upon the other part as well to complete this question. Now considering that this question was in June 2006, paper 6, question number 3, question number 1. Now it says when fish was chosen for sale, those shorter than 30 centimeter are rejected. Find the proportion of the fish rejected. Find the proportion of the fish rejected. Now, with the self realization of the question, it says less than, shorter than 30. So now you need to understand if the question is, this is part 2, probability that X is less than 30. Your first question that should be in your mind is that what is your mean? Your mean was 38. I'm writing down values of X here. So 30 is less than the mean. So if 30 is less than the mean, so that means when I'll calculate my Z value, it will be negative. So let's calculate Z value. That means probability that Z is less than 30 minus 38 upon the standard deviation was 7 point. We'll be taking the exact value of standard deviation. Exact value of standard deviation was 7.2948. 7.2948. We'll be taking the exact value of the standard deviation. So with the respect to this, we'll get what? Value of Z. So Z will be less than what? Negative. There should be negative 1.097. There should be negative 1.097. So that means that if we are creating Gaussian bell curve for the Z now. So this is your mean, which will be 0. But obviously we can write down this is negative 1.097. And we need shorter than this, that means we need this value. So now what do you understand? Does the Z table give me value of the negative? No. So that means we need to change the Z positively by symmetrical drawing on the other side, or Z less than minus 1.097 is basically probability Z greater than 1.097. Which means if I just draw this thing, this will show me what? 1.097 and this will be drawn. But to achieve this answer, what I need to do is, I'll be following the other step, which will be 1 minus probability of Z less than 1.097. That means what I need to do is, to achieve this target, I need to subtract from 1. But for this, I need to find out what Z less than 1.097 first. Phi of 1.097. Because when I calculate the phi of 1.097, this will give me the probability of the left-hand side. So can we just say 1 minus phi of 1.097? So 1.097, 1.0. Let's just find it down here. 1.0. Your 9 comes in the end. This is 9. So 8621. 8621. And the other value is 7. 1.09. So this is 97. Right? So when we are dealing with 7, 7 is here. 7 is basically 16. So 8621 plus 16 will be 8637. 8637. So the end result is 1 minus 0.8637. And when we subtract this, we will end up getting our answer, which is 0.136. We get 1363. Now, this is your answer for the probability. If you want to give the proportion rate or percentage, 0.1363 multiplied by 100. This will be 13.63%. So this becomes your probability, this becomes your percentage. So this was just part 2 of the same question. Part 2 where it says that you need to find out what? X less than 30. So obviously less than 30. Now I have standard deviation. Now I have mean. So that means you will directly find out what? Z value. Now you can't find Z less than negative, right? So obviously you will symmetrically do Z less than negative sign means Z greater than. Now the probability of Z table does not give me the greater than values. For greater than, what you'll do is 1 minus Z less than positive value of Z. Then you will find out the phi of Z and subtract it by 1 so that your probability is for the greater than. Now the third part, it says 9 fish are chosen at random. Find the probability that at least one of them is longer than 50. Now you already know that the question is very clear, that this question part 3 is basically from the binomial. This part 3 is from binomial. So if this is from binomial, so that means what do you need to have is you need to have probability of x greater than equal to 1. And how many parts do you have? You have 9. So that means you can calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That means 9C1, 9C2, 9C3, 9C4, 9C5, 9C6, 9C7, 9C8, 9C9. So knowing the fact that obviously these values, considering that we need to find out 9C1, 9C2, 9C3, 9C4, 9C5, 9C6, 9C7, 9C8, 9C9. So isn't it better that what we do is we say 1 minus probability of x, which is equal to 0. If we just subtract the probability of 0, what we will have? The probability of what? X greater than equal to what? 1. So this means 1 minus 9, 1 minus, there should be 9C0. The probability says that it is greater than 50. And the probability was 0.05 for this. Right? So 0.05 to the power 0, 0.95 to the power 9. So the probability of this is 0.9, which means 0.95 to the power 9, which means 1 minus or directly 0.370. So after subtracting by 1, we'll end up having what? 0.370. So what does this mean? This question from normal, part 1 and part 2, the examiner tested binomial in part 3. So it's very simple to give the answer of binomial, because for binomial, normally the discrete data will be given to you. Like now, 9 fish are chosen at random. So that means there were 9 fishes, so n is equal to 9. So at this point, you need to have at least one longer than 50. That means probability of success is greater than what? 50. So which is 0.5%, which is 0.05. So probability less than 50 would be 0.95, which is not required. So P is 0.05 and Q is 0.95. So automatically what we will say is 9C1, 9C2, because we need greater than equal to 1. So 9C1, 9C2, 9C3, 9C4, 9C5, 9C6, 9C7, 98, 90, 9C9. So obviously you won't be calculating all these values. So what you need to just calculate is 9C0 and subtract it by 1 so that you get the entire other probabilities.